welcome here to MoreTalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel, guys, to another big day in the life of a Barça fan. And coming up for you today, we are going to be hearing directly from Joan Laporta, the Barça president, who today sat alongside the interim coach of the first team, Sergi Barjuan, ahead of the weekend's match against Alaves. And I thought it was absolutely fascinating here to see some insights from Laporta on the sacking of Ronald Koeman. He was very open about the fact that over the past few months, he himself holds his hands up and says that he has made mistakes. And of course, Laporta also spoke in depth about his thoughts on Xavi as the new Barça coach. It is all coming up today, so let's get to it. Because once again, I think it was very refreshing for all of us Barça fans to actually see the president appear at all in this press conference. Obviously, it's something there that he didn't have to do, but once again, Laporta feeling it's very necessary right now to be transparent and basically explain the big decisions that we're seeing being made at this club and exactly how that process took shape. Laporta, first of all, started, though, by saying, firstly, I want to thank Ronald for all of his work at this club. He said he did come to the club in a really tough moment. You know, he had difficult times here, but he said, look, he won the Copa del Rey. He's a club person. He's always going to be connected with Barça, and he will always remain a legend at this club. So Laporta there, very respectful, firstly, when it comes to Ronald Koeman. On his sacking, though, Laporta did admit, he said he's not been able to continue at the club because of the results, particularly recently, that we have been seeing at this club. He said we felt that we had to take a decision in order to still achieve our goals this season. He said the season is not over. We are still able to compete in the league, in the Champions League, and he said we got the cup later in the season as well. He said our goals are still very much achievable, but he said what is absolutely clear is what the club's philosophy must be. We have to play good football. We're not going to negotiate on that. That is something that is deep-rooted into our club. He said when you look at our history, it's given us many titles. We understand that this team has to be better. It has to be more competitive. Laporta then received a number of questions right throughout the press conference directed to him, and actually not Sergi Barjuan. Barjuan was actually sat there thinking, okay, can somebody ask me something? I'm here, it's my big day. But Laporta did take a lot on there from the media. One of the big questions was all about Ronald Koeman's payoff, and indeed the reports circulating right now that Barca are trying to do everything they can to reduce that. Maybe from 13 million, would Koeman accept something like 8 or 9 million? Laporta said our relationship with Ronald is great. He said we informed him of the decision to sack him with big respect. I think that he knows that we gave him as much confidence as we could. He knows that's football, and he said with regards to these negotiations, obviously they're a private matter. He said, but what we want to do is find the best solution for Barca, but also, of course, as well, for Ronald. Then, though, came a really big, and I think fantastic question there, the way of Joan Laporta, and it's something that all of us fans have been thinking over the past weeks, over the past months. Should the sacking of Ronald Koeman have come sooner? Yes, we're here now. Yes, we finally made that decision, but could it have happened quicker? Could we have made the decision months ago, really? And Laporta openly admitted, for the first time, he said probably yes. He said there were some circumstances which made me take the decision to give Koeman a bit more time, but now, given the blessing of hindsight, he said I probably would have taken that decision earlier. We thought Ronald maybe deserved a bit of time to recover some injured players, to give him some confidence, to try and find some positives in his work, but he said it is a good question that you ask, because yes, I take full responsibility for not taking this decision sooner. And I think, honestly, guys, you've heard me on the channel, you know, over the past few weeks, months, when things are getting worse and worse. I've been actively calling upon Laporta to make that decision, getting quite angry with him, which I didn't want to do. I don't want to be angry at any president. I just want them to make the right calls in the best interests of the club. But you know what? It's very refreshing here to actually see a president come out and say, you know what? I made a mistake. I hold my hands up. We've all been saying that Laporta has been making that error, but to hear him actually come out and say, you know what? It was my fault. I should have acted sooner. He actually spoke there about the fact that he had doubts about Koeman in his mind, that he felt as though maybe it wasn't the right path. But I think Laporta was desperate to try and see some sort of positive. He knew his status at the club there with regard to Ronald Koeman, a legend that he is as a player, of course. And of course about the fact that it would have been a big payoff to get rid of him. But I think now, when it all comes down to it, we can all say, you know what, we're glad the decision has been made, but yes, it could have come quicker. Laporta was then asked another interesting question there about Xavi as well as Koeman, because he was basically asked there whether his confidence in Koeman, giving him all this extra time, actually placing his trust in Koeman, has actually affected his relationship with Xavi. But Laporta very much played that down. He said, look, I did speak with Xavi even during the elections. I spoke with Xavi, and he said, nowadays we're always talking between us both. He said, but during the elections, he said, I was transparent with Xavi. I told him that I wanted Koeman to see out his contract because I wanted to give trust to a legend. But he said, like I said, once again, Laporta, I should have made the decision sooner, because now we can see we need change. Laporta was then asked by the journalists about the players, and in particular there, the coaching these players have been receiving, and exactly where the fault lies right now within this squad. Can the players do more? Should they be doing more? Or is it more about the way that they've been coached over these past few months? So Laporta actually said this time, he said, that's a question more for the sporting area than for me as the president. He said, I'm not going to tell you how to manage a squad of players. He said, that's not my job. He said, personally though, I think we have a good team. I think we have a good squad there, openly saying, you know what, we do have good players. But he said, of course, we can improve, especially when you look at the way La Liga has been this season, very unpredictable, many of the top teams dropping points. We can still achieve a lot. But he said, go on, ask Sergi. He said, he's right here. Just ask him some questions. And I think actually the answer that Barjuan gave there was very, very important as well, because this is something that I think we have to do right now as a team, and certainly the new coach coming in too. He said, what we tried to do with the squad is to bring back the joy and happiness back to the players. He said, we want them to play with a smile on their face again. We know what they can do as players, and tomorrow we want to see them play the kind of football that we know they can play. And I think that's a really, really important point there with regard to just being happy out in the field. I think you play your best football there when you're enjoying what you do, when you're enjoying the system that you're in, when you're playing the kind of football that suits you as a player. We've got to bring that back. Many of the players out there, when you watch Barcelona, they're playing out there like it's torture, like we're forcing them to be there, like they're actually waiting. They can't wait until the game is over. Shouldn't be like that. Let's bring back the enjoyment. Let's bring back the smiles. And hopefully, the performances as well will improve in that regard. Before then, of course, it was time for Xavi. There was always going to be an abundance of questions going Joan Laporta's way. He certainly would have expected that heading into this press conference. Xavi right now is all over the Spanish media, is the only name right now that anyone cares about. But Laporta said, first of all, with regard to any negotiations, with regard to any talks there with Xavi about him becoming the new Barca coach, he said, I can't talk about that. He said, you know that I cannot talk to you about our options, about any negotiations. He said, it wouldn't be professional on my part. He said, I'm sorry about that, but I don't want to do anything that would jeopardise our plans, that would affect our plans in a negative way. However, if you thought that answer there from Laporta was going to shut down the journalists, if you thought they weren't going to ask him any more questions about Xavi after that, well, you were certainly wrong about that. Because actually what they did, they got a bit creative. Because they didn't ask Laporta about Xavi becoming the Barca coach and exactly what the status is on that right now. Instead, they said, okay then, Joan, what is your opinion on Xavi as a coach? Not necessarily as the Barca coach, but what do you think of him? Looking at his time with Al Sadd, looking at him as a person, do you think that he is a good coach? Laporta did indeed answer. He said, my opinion about Xavi as a coach is that he's in right now a very good process. He said he's learning a lot. He's always developing. He said, I got very good references from people who are close to him. He said, very, very good reports from those people. He said, I spoke with him before. He said, actually, back when we were giving Ronald Koeman the final vote of confidence, discussions did take place, Laporta admitted there, between him and Xavi. And this is the key here. He said, I've got a great relationship with him. And just listen to this. He said, I already know his opinion about the squad that we have. He said he's already given me his thoughts about what we need to do, what we can do with this team. He said we've spoken about many recent Barca games together. He said my opinion is a really good one on Xavi. And I think that is an absolutely fascinating quote there. And Laporta, I think, has actually given away probably more than he actually meant to there, because he's openly said, you know what? Xavi already has a plan. Xavi is already planning for this next step. And I always have that feeling about Xavi that he's been watching Barca over these past few seasons, particularly recently when his name has been closer and closer to the job. And he'll be watching the games thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I bring? What can I change? He will know what needs to improve and what needs to get better in this team already. And when finally asked again and again and again about Xavi, Laporta said, I've always said from day one Xavi Hernandez will manage this club. He said he loves football. He's a huge Barca fan, and it's one of his goals in life. He said, I always said that I'm sure he will do it. He said, I've also said in the past that I would be happy to be the president when he achieves that goal. And like I've said, I've got a great relationship with him before he finally admitted Xavi is a possibility. Yes. And I really do think, guys, listening to all of these quotes there, particularly the ones on Xavi and especially the ones that we heard from him yesterday actually speaking in the Al Sadd press conference, that quite clearly things are going on right now behind the scenes. Obviously, without everything being done, without the contracts being signed, without his exit from Al Sadd being finalised, we can't say too much. Contractually, and also as a mark of respect to Al Sadd, we don't want to talk about Xavi as the Barca coach until it's 100% done. But believe me, we are moving in that direction. That is the path that this club has chosen to go down. Clearly, Laporta rates Xavi. He already has his ideas. He already has the backing, certainly, of the fan base. And I think we're all waiting now, looking ahead to when that can be confirmed. And also, of course, looking to Saturday's game against Alaves, which is a crucial game again for Barca. We're going to be talking all about that with all of the build-up and all of the news right now. That's going to be coming later on over on the main channel. Because like I said, during these times, the news doesn't stop. And for that reason, I won't stop. Please leave your thoughts on everything we have discussed in today's video, on Laporta's quotes there, on Ronald Koeman, on Xavi, and of course on Sergi Barjuan. There's plenty more to come, and plenty more to discuss. I will see you soon for all of that, but until next time, as always, Visca El Barça!